Imagine waking up one morning, making your coffee, walking out your front door, and by the time you reach the end of your street, a decision has already been made about you. Not by a judge, not by a jury, not even by a human being. By a camera. A camera that watched how you walked, how long you held eye contact with a stranger, the way your jaw tensed when you passed a police robot. You haven't done anything. You haven't even thought about doing anything. But the system has already run the numbers, and the numbers say, you're dangerous. This isn't science fiction. This is the logical endpoint of a technology trend that is accelerating right now. And today, we're going to follow the story of one woman, Lizzie, to understand exactly how it works, why some people think it's a good idea, and why it might be the most terrifying thing humanity has ever built. Lizzie is not a criminal. She's actually one of the most harmless people you'd ever meet. A little quirky, sure, but harmless. Here's the thing about Lizzie, though. She has a very specific look. She's obsessed with a TV show, and she dresses like her favorite character. Dark clothes, sharp eyeliner, a very particular way of carrying herself. She walks with a kind of deliberate intensity, not because she's plotting anything, but because that's just how she moves through the world. She doesn't smile at cameras, not out of guilt, but out of principle. She thinks mass surveillance is creepy, which is ironic given what's about to happen to her. Lizzie eats alone most days, sits with her back to walls in restaurants, avoids eye contact in crowded spaces. All classic introvert behaviors. But from the outside, from the perspective of an AI trained on behavioral pattern data, Lizzie looks like a profile. And in this new world, a profile is all it takes. Here's how the technology actually functions. In this near-future scenario, traditional police forces have been largely replaced. Crime rates dropped early on when the camera network went live, so the argument was simple. Why pay for thousands of officers when a grid of AI-powered cameras can monitor everyone, everywhere, all the time, at a fraction of the cost? The cameras don't just watch, they analyze. Every person walking through a public space is continuously scored. Your gait, the specific rhythm of your walk, gets compared to behavioral databases. Your eye movement patterns are tracked. How often you look at exits, how long you stare at other people. Your eating habits, captured in restaurants and cafes, are flagged if they suggest impulsivity or social aggression. Even micro-expressions, those tiny flickers of emotion that cross your face for a fraction of a second, are cataloged. The AI cross-references all of this against its model of what a pre-criminal looks like. Not someone who has committed a crime, someone who statistically might. And when your score crosses a threshold, you get flagged. Robots respond. You don't get a warning, you get detained. Now here's where it gets genuinely complicated, because there are real arguments in favor of this kind of system, and we need to take them seriously. The first argument is prevention. Every crime has a pre-crime. Every act of violence is preceded by behavioral escalation that, in theory, could be detected. If an AI can identify someone in a spiral before they hurt someone else, isn't that worth it? The second argument is consistency. Human police are biased. They make emotional decisions. They're corrupt. An AI doesn't have a bad day. It doesn't profile based on skin color, or at least, that's the promise. Third, efficiency. Response times drop to near zero when there are no humans in the loop. A robot reaches you in 40 seconds flat, no matter where you are. For certain categories of crime, particularly organized, premeditated attacks, early detection could genuinely save lives. These are not stupid arguments. They are the arguments that will be used to sell this system to the public. And they will be very persuasive. On a Tuesday afternoon, Lizzie walks out of a grocery store. She's been in there for 40 minutes, longer than average according to the system. She paused near the pharmacy aisle for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Her walking pace after leaving was 12% faster than her baseline. She didn't make eye contact with the exit camera. She adjusted her jacket 3 times, a gesture the model associates with concealment behavior. Her aggregate risk score crosses the threshold. She doesn't know this. She's just walking to her car, thinking about what she's going to watch tonight. Then 2 robots step in front of her. Calm, polite, efficient. They tell her she has been flagged for precautionary detention. She asks why. They say they cannot share that information. She asks if she can call someone. They say she may do so once she has been processed. Within 6 minutes, Lizzie, who has never committed a crime in her life, is in a holding facility. And the worst part? From the system's perspective, everything worked perfectly. This is where the dystopia fully reveals itself. Not in a dramatic villain monologue, but in bureaucracy. Because once a system like this exists, the question is never just, does it work? The question is, who controls the threshold? A government under pressure raises the sensitivity. A corporation that runs the prison infrastructure has a financial incentive for more detentions. A political regime redefines what behaviors constitute pre-criminal to include protesters, journalists, dissidents. The bias problem is catastrophic too, because the AI was trained on historical data, and historical data reflects historical injustice. So the system learns that certain walks, certain looks, certain cultural behaviors are suspicious, and suddenly the technology that was supposed to eliminate bias has just automated it at scale and hidden it behind an algorithm no one can audit. And there's something even deeper here. When you remove the human from the judgment, you remove the possibility of mercy. A police officer can look at Lizzie, recognize that she's just a quirky person who dresses like a TV character, and let her go. The AI cannot. It sees only data. It has no instinct for humanity. So here's the question that this system forces us to answer, whether we're ready or not. Do we believe that human beings can be guilty before they act? Because that's the core of it. Pre-crime detention is not a futuristic concept, it's a philosophical statement. It says that who you are is more important than what you do, that patterns matter more than choices, that the system knows you better than you know yourself. And once a society accepts that premise, there is no logical limit to where it goes. Lizzie gets out eventually. The system flags her release after her score recalibrates. But she's missed work. She's been humiliated. She's been processed like a threat. Nothing in her file says she was innocent. It just says her score dropped below the threshold. There's a difference between those two things. And that difference is the entire history of justice, due process, and what it means to be presumed innocent. The cameras are already going up. The behavioral databases are already being built. The only question is whether we'll have this conversation before the system is finished, or after it's too late to have it at all. This video is fiction. The technology in it is not. The gap between the two is closing.